The studio lights burned bright, but the real heat came from the tension crackling between two unlikely opponents: Jasmine Crockett, a sharp-tongued congresswoman forged in courtrooms, and Barron Trump, a legacy name with something to prove. The moderator hadn't even finished the first question when Barron smirked and fired the first shot. What followed wasn't just a debate. It was a reckoning. The tension in the studio was palpable, thick enough to cut through. Dozens of audience members sat forward in their chairs, phones muted, breaths held. Bright studio lights bore down on a sleek stage designed for high-stakes discourse. Tonight's topic: political ethics in a fractured America. But no one was here for abstract theories. They came for a clash. And everyone knew it. On one side sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, poised and still, her calm presence radiating control. Her tailored navy blue blazer, minimal jewelry, and note-free desk spoke volumes. She didn't come to perform, she came prepared. A former public defender and rising progressive voice, she had built her reputation brick by brick, case by case, speech by speech. To many, she was a symbol of modern resistance, sharp, unflinching, and unapologetically grounded in lived experience. Facing her, with a casual confidence bordering on defiance, was Barron Trump. Dressed in a crisp gray suit with a designer edge, he leaned back in his chair with a smirk that felt rehearsed. Though young, he had mastered the art of presence, how to make silence feel like provocation. Tonight, he wasn't just the son of a former president. He was a disruptor, a challenger. And he had something to prove. The cameras rolled. The moderator gave a brief, formal welcome. Then the first question, something innocuous about the role of personal history in shaping political ethics. Barron didn't wait. He leaned into the microphone and spoke with unmistakable mischief. "Well, Congresswoman Crockett," he began, his tone laced with amusement, "how exactly does someone with your background become the face of ethical leadership?" He paused, the smirk deepening. "I mean hairdressing before law school?" A few awkward chuckles fluttered across the studio. Jasmine didn't move. Her eyes remained fixed, her posture unchanged. "Yes, Barron," she said, voice steady. "I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college, including styling hair. And I graduated at the top of my law school class. I don't come from a dynasty. I come from discipline." The room shifted. The laughter died. Her words landed like steel, measured, controlled, and unmistakably real. Barron blinked but pressed on, hoping to recover the upper hand. "Cue comeback," he shrugged. "But your voting record doesn't exactly scream ethical. Didn't you once vote against?" "Let me stop you there," Jasmine said, raising a hand calmly. "You're talking about House Resolution 214, which I co-sponsored. The amendment you're referring to would have defunded public schools in underserved districts. I voted against that, and I'd do it again." The audience buzzed, this time with approval. The energy was shifting. Fast. This wasn't going to be a debate of slogans. It was shaping up to be a reckoning. Of privilege versus preparation, of soundbites versus substance. And while the spotlight was shared, only one person seemed ready to withstand the heat. Jasmine hadn't come to play defense. She came to redefine the terms of the conversation. The moderator leaned forward, sensing the audience's growing energy, but Jasmine had already taken command. No cue was necessary. She spoke directly to Barron and, by extension, to every person watching at home. "You want to talk about ethics?" she said, calmly yet firmly. "Let's talk about how ethics are shaped not by headlines, but by decisions made when no one is watching." Barron scoffed. "You mean like when your name appeared in that donor audit?" It was a calculated jab, clearly prepared in advance. The room tensed. "I'm glad you brought that up," Jasmine replied without pause. "That audit? Routine. 0 violations. No charges. Just my name on a spreadsheet, used by people who hope the public won't dig deeper than a tweet." Her composure was surgical. The moderator nodded. Some audience members began to lean toward Jasmine, others toward Barron, but no one was disengaged. She continued. "You came here hoping to win with one-liners and assumptions," Jasmine said. "But I came with context. With truth. With receipts." Barron, sensing the shift, tried to pivot. "Fine. Let's skip the ethics and talk policy. You endorsed a federal infrastructure bill that includes a funding shift from minority neighborhoods to industrial projects. $230 million. Either you didn't read it, or you endorsed it anyway." Gasps spread across the studio. It was meant to be a knockout blow. Jasmine didn't blink. "Page 412, Section 17B, she said. "That clause only activates during emergency surplus years." And had you read footnote C, you'd know that the diverted funds return to flood-prone communities after FEMA certifies a need. She walked to the panel's display screen and pointed. And just to make sure we're clear, here's the amendment I authored, which passed 3 weeks ago. It mandates transparency reporting for any redirected funds. Applause. Barron's jaw tightened. His smirk disappeared. He flipped through his printed notes, visibly off balance. You cherry-picked a sentence, Jasmine continued, her tone even, and ignored the clause that disproves your argument. That's not policy. That's performance. The crowd erupted. Barron tried to interject but was met with silence, Jasmine's silence, firm and unyielding. She turned to the audience now, addressing them directly. You've been told that youth equals innovation. That money equals wisdom. That legacy equals merit. But when people like me speak with clarity and conviction, we're told we're emotional. When we lead with facts, we're called aggressive. So here I am again, not playing defense, but holding the line. Cheers. Camera flashes. The tone had changed. This was no longer a debate, it was a masterclass. Jasmine glanced briefly at Barron, then back to the crowd. This conversation isn't about me or him, she said. It's about who gets to lead, who gets to define truth. And tonight, you've seen the difference between prepared and privileged. As the room settled from the eruption of applause, Barron Trump sat stiffly, the weight of his surname doing little to shield him from the moment. Jasmine Crockett had not just responded, she had redefined the entire discussion. Her voice hadn't needed to rise. Her words had done the lifting. The moderator, clearly trying to restore balance, offered Barron another opportunity to speak. He cleared his throat, reached for another talking point, but the crowd had already turned. His voice trembled slightly, a shadow of the swagger he had entered with. This is why people don't trust politicians, he muttered. You twist everything. Jasmine didn't miss a beat. She leaned forward, her eyes steady. No, she said. People lose trust when the truth is ignored, when power speaks louder than principle. What you saw here tonight wasn't a twist. It was the truth, uncomfortable, unvarnished, and undeniable. There was no need for grand theatrics. Her calm confidence spoke volumes. Then, addressing the audience directly, she took a breath. I didn't come here to trade insults, she said. I came here because back home, there are parents who can't afford insulin, students learning in underfunded schools, and workers juggling 2 jobs just to stay afloat. I came here for them. The studio fell quiet, not with tension, but with reverence. Every time someone tells people like me we don't belong, because of our background, our tone, our hair, or our name, I remind them, I didn't get here by accident. I got here by doing the work. She stood, not in victory, but in resolve. And if truth makes you uncomfortable, maybe it's because too many people have been too comfortable with injustice. A final round of applause swept the room. This time louder, more sustained, even from unexpected corners. As she walked off stage, Jasmine didn't wave, didn't bask. She simply nodded once to the crowd. Her message had landed. Barron remained seated, flipping through his notes. Each page a reminder that being heard requires more than a name. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just won the moment. She had earned it. As the final applause faded and the cameras began to power down, the atmosphere in the studio lingered with an unmistakable shift. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just responded to an attack. She had redefined the entire conversation. In a space often dominated by theatrics and shallow sound bites, she brought depth, clarity, and a presence that could not be ignored. Her words weren't crafted to go viral, they were crafted to tell the truth. And that truth, spoken with unshakable calm and unapologetic precision, landed harder than any insult ever could. Barron Trump entered the stage with bravado, armed with inherited confidence and talking points designed to provoke. But he left the stage quieter, less certain. Not because he was silenced, but because his arguments were simply no match for Jasmine's preparation, lived experience, and command of policy. She didn't just defend herself, she flipped the script. She made it clear that credentials aren't measured in wealth or last names, but in what you've done, who you've helped, and what you're willing to stand for, even when it's uncomfortable. As Jasmine walked off the stage, heads turned, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. Her performance wasn't a theatrical triumph. It was a statement, a declaration that intellect, authenticity, and courage still have a place in public discourse. That truth still matters. That facts still carry weight. And most importantly, that people are watching, craving leadership that doesn't flinch when challenged but stands tall, even when the spotlight burns hottest. Jasmine didn't just win the debate. She reminded a nation that grace under fire is the mark of real power. And when you're armed with truth, no headline, no smear, no legacy can outshine your light.